I've always wanted to do artistic things. It's very satisfying to create something from nothing and have somebody else appreciate it. So I'm looking for an avenue, and I did silkscreen t-shirts, printmaking, and one day I decided to take a stained glass class, and I just saw the glass and fell in love with it. It was a real deep red glass. It was a candy apple red, and I swear I could have eaten it. And that was it. I do know that everybody has a connection to kaleidoscopes in one way or another. It's like my grandfather had a kaleidoscope, or my dad used to build these. And I think it has something to do with perception of the colors itself and the tessellation of the colors. And that tessellation is something I've always been fascinated with since the moment I made my first kaleidoscope.
When we started dating, Michael made me this piece right here. And I said, why don't you try and sign up for the crafts line? And when the list opened up, there was something like 100 applicants, and they had 13 spaces was all.
My idea was to sell smaller gift items, and then get commission jobs to do windows and things in people's homes. And that didn't pan out. I got 1 or 2 commissions a year. And then I built that one kaleidoscope and put it on the table, and boom, that sold. And I was like, oh, we'll put another one there, and that sold. And it just turned into nothing but kaleidoscopes, and I just had to follow that path.
And it took 2 years for us to eventually give up day jobs. And 25 years later, we were supporting 4 people plus.
I thought for years, well, maybe I'll the third eye kaleidoscopes or something real esoteric. But people were like, hey, the kaleidoscope guy at the market, So my card now bears that title. It's the kaleidoscope guy at the market. This is the #1 tourist attraction in Washington State, besides Mount Rainier. People come here to see people, to interact, to buy produce and food and arts and crafts. All handmade. It has to be handmade.
It's got to be something that, you get people come up and say, I've never seen anything like that before, and that's the key. And there's just so many artists down here that they bounce off and they inspire each other.
And we're swapping ideas back and forth, borrowing ideas, pushing the other guy to extend his limitations, that sort of thing, and come up with something cool and different. It's just helping the other person along, basically.
Here's what happens when I land at Seattle. I go get checked into my room, put all my luggage and everything in there, and then I come back down and go, I'm going to Pike's Market. Does anybody want to go with me? And since 1996, I bought whatever was available when I went there. I was afraid not to buy them because there wouldn't be another chance that I would run across them. And like all collections, it's just like, wow, I don't have one of those yet. Bring that over here. I know how to solder, but he's putting glass and metal together to make a cage to hold those mirrors in place. And he's able to solder it without damaging the glass. That's why it's so difficult. I can't tell you how to do it. I couldn't tell you what it would take. It's just plain good old American workmanship. There are other kaleidoscopes that I can go buy for $1.50 a kaleidoscope at the toy store. It's not the same. So this is the snowman, and of course the first time you see this you go, okay, so here's the beads and the things that are going to move to make the colors change and you get to see through the hat towards the bottom of the snowman. And sometimes I do get the person that comes over and says, "What's this?" "Oh, you haven't seen the kaleidoscopes?" Then these come out, and they get to look, and get to see, and get to feel, and get to touch. Everyone should have some sort of a collection, so they'll have their own area of enjoyment close at hand.
I've always been an artist who wants to create living things out of inanimate objects. And I've always been influenced by marine life, fish, dolphins, that kind of stuff. And with this environment, because we are close to the water, we're close to the mountains, we're close to the forest, I think that affects me in a natural way and it makes me feel able to explore and create.
Great minds of the 19th century perceived metaphors for the vast diversity of human experience when they gazed into a kaleidoscope. In 1881, social reformer and journalist George Sims published a 2-volume series on London life entitled The Social Kaleidoscope. He argued, substitute for the fragments of colored glass the many-hued virtues, vices, passions, and peculiarities of mankind. And at every twist of the social kaleidoscope, we get a glimpse of human nature in a varied aspect. Charles Baudelaire, the French writer who's credited with coining the term modernity, wrote passionately in 1863 of the symbolic importance of flaneurs, explorers who wandered and observed the urban experience. Baudelaire described these connoisseurs of the street. The lover of eternal life enters into the crowd as though it were an immense reservoir of electrical energy. Or we might liken him to a kaleidoscope, responding to each one of its movements and reproducing the multiplicity of life and the flickering grace of all the elements of life.
Well, what we're doing today, I'll buy a couple pieces of glass and we'll check out the images on the glass. Maybe we can look at something that'll fit together color-wise.
So, what are you looking for?
I'm just looking for different color combinations. So can I take this one out? This is a beautiful piece of glass. What I like about Kathy is that she looks for unusual kind of glass and she understands and appreciates the real quality of the glass.
I have the largest amount of glass because I love it. I love glass because there's so many things you can do with it. You can melt it, you can cut it, you can put it in a torch, you can do so much with it. And it's like, I've been doing it since 1979. There's no end to the amount of things you can do with glass. I mean, what Michael does with kaleidoscopes, all the colors and the way that the light comes through is so inspiring and beautiful. It's like a church.
Yeah, traditionally, church windows, they start out blue on the outside, they move into the red in the interior. That's kind of like the sky moving into the heart. I mean, you look at those things, and it's a real emotional effect on you. So I think we have kind of that same connection to the glass. It's an emotional thing, isn't it?
It very much is.
Yeah, it really is. Let's take a look at that one right behind you there. That's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So this is perfect for me. What I'm going to do is take, this area right here, the bottom of the kaleidoscope's here, and the top will be here, so you have that kind of image in it. I mean, this would be a frog, this would be a lizard, this could be a lot of different things.
$64 even.
All right, Kath, we'll see you.
Nellie Bly started in 1988. The store is designed so that you can play with everything. Because it's what's on the inside that's important. Just like people, it's the inside that matters. I think people find privacy in a kaleidoscope. It's that curiosity where you look in something, and then you're seeing something beautiful that you can't really control. So it takes chaos, it turns it into order, and it's a very private kind of experience. You can't look in a kaleidoscope and do anything else. When someone comes to me, and they do often, they say, which scope should I get? I can't help you. The scope picks you. It's such a personal thing, which is why we're able to carry over 100 artists who make 100 different kinds of kaleidoscopes. But a lot of artists do related things. They do kaleidoscopes and they do woodworking. They do kaleidoscopes and they do some form of other artistic thing. So there are probably only like a dozen kaleidoscope artists that make a decent living making kaleidoscopes full time.
The kaleidoscope itself is so simple an idea. The three pieces of mirror stuck together, and any formula of angles will create a refraction. I kind of took that idea and tried different aspects of that, stacking them on top of each other, so you get this multiple image of things going different directions. So I could build that mirror system and then put whatever I wanted around it. When I'm making these, I'll close my eyes and feel. And if they're not square, I can feel that. And I'm operating with a 800-degree soldering iron, and copper absorbs heat very quickly. So when you're holding these things, you have to be prepared for a quick application of your solder. So basically what I'm doing is building these sculptures and then sticking a kaleidoscope in it. And then building a chamber or a color wheel or whatever to make the actual color images. I like a lot of clear, colorful, real dense color. A lot of reds, a lot of blues, greens. And I also put the iridized crystal in my tubes. And I'll send a rainbow effect up through the kaleidoscope. I think it's a spiritual thing, taking a piece of cold chemical compound glass and turning it into something that has a shape that resembles an animal or something like that is kind of like infusing life into it.
Author Ray Bradbury's story, Kaleidoscope, concerns a group of astronauts whose ship is destroyed and are floating mercilessly in space to their deaths. Towards the finale, Captain Hollis watches his shipmate Stone drift into a cluster of meteors, and his mind ponders the eternal. Bradbury describes it. There was a kind of wonder and imagination in the thought of Stone going off in the meteor swarm, out past Mars for years, and coming in toward Earth every 5 years, shifting and shaping like the kaleidoscope colors when you were a child, and held the long tube to the sun and gave it a twirl. Moments later, Captain Hollis himself burns to ashes as he hurtles into Earth's atmosphere, causing a blazing white star that is seen by a boy who wishes upon it. A sense of wonder sent the astronaut into space, destroyed him, and wonder will send another man again in the future. Bradbury's work presents both human experience and the natural world in an endless circle of disintegration and reunion, a kaleidoscope.
I think the owl is probably the most impressive and most amazing sculpture, but then as a kaleidoscope itself was just breathtaking because there's so many pieces in his eyes as you're spinning them.
But my impression of the owl is the hard work involved in putting it together.
When was the last time you saw the owl?
When I gave it away.
Yeah, when it was installed.
It's wearing well, it's really antiquing well. It's such a small little piece here, but it suggests the curvature of the shoulder area. And the pieces are narrower on one end, suggesting the curvature of the head. And it's all enclosed. It's enclosed on the bottom, so there's no dust that's going to get up inside of it. You do know what kaleidoscopes are?
Yeah, I've seen them like in the stores, like cheap ones.
it's a
This
good
one's like
price.
professional.
Professional.
Professional. It kind of reminds me of a sunset, like a mixed up sunset kind of thing.
All the colors really go together, sort of. It's like, it's really pleasing to look at. It makes me feel pretty calm. It's definitely
It definitely is spectacular.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It's so cool to be able to revisit these kind of pieces that are spectacular like this. And it's good to see a new generation of children coming up and enjoying it and discovering it for the first time.
Cozy Baker, who was hailed by aficionados as the first lady of kaleidoscopes, acquired more than 1,000 objects over the course of her life, which was the largest collection in the world. She also published 6 books about their philosophical resonance. In one particularly moving passage, she wrote, "To me, kaleidoscopes are divine inspiration. They resonate to the music in my soul, and the imagery is exactly what my heart yearns to see." I view the kaleidoscope's image as a warm embrace, one more colorful expression of God's love toward all creation.